Through the crook of a mud-smeared elbow shoving back the sodden brim of her hat, the girl glanced toward him like a vaguely perplexed little ragamuffin. "It was messy," she admitted softly. Out from her snarl of storm-blown hair, tattered, battered by wind and rain, she peered up suddenly with her first frowning sign of self-consciousness. "If there's one thing in the world that I regret," she faltered deprecatingly, it's an untidy fight." Altogether violently, Barton burst out laughing. There was no mirth in the laugh, but just noise. "Oh, let's go home," he suggested hysterically. "Home?" faltered little Eve Edgarton. With a sluggish sort of defiance she reached out and gathered the big wet scrapbook to her breast. "Why, Mr. Barton," she said, "we couldn't get home now in all this storm and darkness and washout to save our lives. But even if it were moonlight," she sing-songed, "and starlight and high noon, even if there were chariots at the door, I'm not going home now till I've finished my scrapbook, if it takes a week." "Eh?" jerked Barton. "What?" Laboriously he edged himself forward. For 5 hours now of reckless riding, of storm and privation, through death and disaster, the girl had clung tenaciously to her books and papers. What in creation was in them? "For heaven's sake, Miss Edgarton," he began. "Oh, don't fuss so," said little Eve Edgarton. "It's nothing but my paper doll book." "Your paper doll book?" stammered Barton. With another racking effort he edged himself even farther forward. "Miss Edgarton," he asked quite frankly, "are you crazy?" "No, but very determined," drawled little Eve Edgarton. With unruffled serenity she picked up a pulpy magazine page from the ground in front of her and handed it to him. "And it would greatly facilitate matters, Mr. Barton," she confided, "if you would kindly begin drying out some papers against your side of the lantern." "What?" gasped Barton. Very gingerly he took the pulpy sheet between his thumb and forefinger. It was a full-page picture of a big gas range, and slowly as he scanned it for some hidden charm or value, it split in two and fell soggily back to its mates. Once again, for sheer nervous relief, he burst out laughing. Out of her diminutiveness, out of her leanness, out of her extraordinary litheness, little Eve Edgarton stared up speculatively at Barton's great hulking helplessness. Her hat looked humorous. Her hair looked humorous. Her tattered flannel shirt was distinctly humorous. But there was nothing humorous about her set little mouth. "If you laugh," she threatened, "I'll tip you over backward again and trample on you." "I believe you would," said Barton with a sudden sobriety more packed with mirth than any laugh he had ever laughed. "Well, I don't care," conceded the girl a bit sheepishly. "Everybody laughs at my paper doll book. Father does. Everybody does. When I'm rearranging their old mummy collections and cataloguing their old South American birds, or shining up their old geological specimens, they think I'm wonderful. But when I try to do the teeniest, tiniest thing that happens to interest me, they call me crazy. So that's why I come way out here into this cave to play," she whispered with a flicker of real shyness. "In all the world," she confided, "this cave is the only place I've ever found where there wasn't anybody to laugh at me." Between her placid brows a vindictive little frown blackened suddenly. "That's why it wasn't specially convenient, Mr. Barton, to have you ride with me this afternoon," she affirmed. "That's why it wasn't specially convenient to have you struck by lightning this afternoon." Tragically, with one small brown hand she pointed toward the great water-soaked mess of magazines that surrounded her. "You see," she mourned, "I've been saving them up all summer to cut out today. And now we're sailing for Melbourne Saturday," she added conclusively. "Well, really!" stammered Barton. "Well, truly!" "Well, of all damned things! Why, what do you want me to do? Apologize to you for having been struck by lightning?" His voice was fairly righteous with astonishment and indignation. Then quite unexpectedly one side of his mouth began to twist upward in the faintest perceptible sort of a real grin. "When you smile like that you're quite pleasant," murmured little Eve Edgarton. "Is that so?" grinned Barton. "Well, it wouldn't hurt you to smile just a tiny bit now and then." "Wouldn't it?" said little Eve Edgarton. Thoughtfully for a moment, with her scissors poised high in the air, she seemed to be considering the suggestion. Then quite abruptly again she resumed her task of prying some pasted object out of her scrapbook. "Oh, no, thank you, Mr. Barton," she decided. "I'm much too bored all the while to do any smiling." "Bored?" snapped Barton. Staring perplexedly into her dreary, meek little face, something deeper, something infinitely subtler than mere curiosity wakened precipitately in his consciousness. "For heaven's sake, Miss Edgarton!" he stammered. "From the Arctic Ocean to the South Seas, if you've seen all the things that you must have seen, if you've done all the things that you must have done, why should you look so bored?" Flutteringly the girl's eyes lifted and fell. "Why, I'm bored, Mr. Barton," drawled little Eve Edgarton. "I'm bored because I'm sick to death of seeing all the things I've seen. I'm sick to death of doing all the things I've done." With little metallic snips of sound she concentrated herself and her scissors suddenly upon the mahogany colored picture of a pianola. "Well, what do you want?" quizzed Barton. In a sullen, turgid sort of defiance the girl lifted her somber eyes to his. "I want to stay home like other people and have a house," she wailed. "I want a house and the things that go with a house. A cat and the things that go with a cat. Kittens and the things that go with kittens. Saucers of cream and the things that go with saucers of cream. Ice chests and surprisingly into her languid sing-song tone broke a sudden note of passion. "Bah!" she snapped. "Think of going all the way to India just to plunge your arms into spooky foamy Ganges and make a wish. What do you wish?" asks father, pleased as a Chessy puss. Humph! I wish it was the soapsuds in my own wash tub. Or gallivanting down to British Guiana just to smell the great blowsy water lilies in the canals. I'd rather smell burnt crackers in my own cook stove." "But you'll surely have a house some time," argued Barton with real sympathy. Quite against all intention the girl's unexpected emotion disturbed him a little. "Every girl gets a house some time," he insisted resolutely. "No, I don't think so," mused Eve Edgarton judicially. "You see," she explained with a soft, slow deliberation, "you see, Mr. Barton, only people who live in houses know people who live in houses. If you're a nomad you meet only nomads. Campers mate just naturally with campers, and ocean travelers with ocean travelers, and red velvet hotel dwellers with red velvet hotel dwellers. Oh, of course, if Mother had lived it might have been different," she added a trifle more cheerfully. "For of course if Mother had lived I should have been pretty," she asserted calmly, "or interesting looking, anyway. Mother would surely have managed it somehow, and I should have had a lot of beaux young men beaux, I mean, like you. Father's friends are all so gray. Oh, of course I shall marry some time," she continued evenly. "Probably I'm going to marry the British consul at Nonkonono. He's a great friend of Father's, and he wants me to help him write a book on the geologic relationship of Melanesia to the Australian continent." Dully her voice rose to its monotone. "But I don't suppose we shall live in a house," she moaned apathetically. "At the best it will probably be only a musty room or two up over the consulate. And more likely than not it won't be anything at all except a nipa hut and a typewriter table." End of Part 1, Chapter 2.